have never watched an anime that have made me so uncomfortable to watch like this one. When I watched the first episode and realized the premise alone, I wanted to quit so badly. But to give you a proper review of this anime, I subjected myself to watch it, and I'm gonna make you suffer with me by telling you about it. Now, I'm talking about Banban Banban Vampire. 12 episodes, comedy, supernatural, boys love or yaoi, and a manga adaptation. Now, how do I even begin? Well, let's start like this. We have our main character who is the perverted vampire. Now, he does has a name, but he doesn't deserve one. Perverted vampire is enough for him. Now, he is a perverted vampire. He he was barely surviving in the sunlight, escaping from a vampire hunter, where he stumbled upon our other main character, a 8-year-old Tatsuno, who lives in whose parents own a bathhouse, and he decided to rescue the perverted vampire, and the vampire was so grateful that decided to stay in the bathhouse and become an employee and working there. Now that's all fine and good. Year pass. He's the now Tatsuno is 15 years old, and the vampire is just living his life, grateful for the family to take him in and rescue him when he was down on his luck. But Tatsuno reveals that on his way to school, he fell in love with a girl, and it was the old school thing about running to school with a piece of bread in your mouth and knocking each other over. But this time it's the guy that has the bread in his mouth. Well, after school ended, love at first sight and anything, Tatsuno decided to tell to the perverted vampire, hey, I fell in love with this girl. And he went into a rage. Why? And here where the disgusting, degenerate part come in. Because he reveals that he, ever since the perverted vampire met Tatsuno when he was only 8 years old, he was just keeping staying in the bathhouse as an employee and as an excuse to monitor him, just waiting the moment he strikes 18 years old so he can suck his blood because he enjoys the blood of an innocent virgin freshly 18-year-old boy. Yeah, that's right. That's the whole premise of the show. He guarding his virginity of Tatsuno for the next 3 years just so he can take him for himself. So pretty much everything from 8-year to 15-year-old, he was just practically grooming this child. And it made me super uncomfortable all throughout the 12 episodes. And not only that, if it was just something like only simply enjoying like food, like they simply he enjoying the taste of our blood when he's 18-year-old and that's it, it would be one thing. No, he constantly, whenever the perverted vampire thinks of Tatsuno and how pure he is and how delicious he's going to be when he's 18 years old, ripe for the taking, he gets aroused. Seriously, throughout the entire anime, he's constantly getting aroused. It's super. It's not screenshots. Is it in the zooming into the crush area of characters and everything? This entire show was just super degenerate. Now, in look, and as an as evidence that I just didn't quit an episode one and that's it. No, I subjected myself, like I said, to all 12 episodes. And not only was there a perverted vampire, but there's also was a perverted vampire hunter. Seriously, the the school teacher of Tatsuno, he at the beginning of in the I would say the first two episodes since he appeared, he was super focused on killing the vampire, and it was all good and dandy and everything. And I thought that it was going to be like an understanding that yes, he's a vampire, but he only drinks the blood of mostly of bad people. He rarely to never, when he drinks the blood of an innocent person, he doesn't kill them. He doesn't drink them dry. So I thought that there was going to be on the long run a mutual understanding or something, but no, because like I said, the vampire hunter is also super perverted, and he developed a fetish, and he wants the vampire to drink his blood, and just the imagining himself having his blood sucked dry by the vampire hunter arouses him. And throughout the episode, since they reveal, he constantly does stuff to seduce the vampire, and it's just so creepy and disgusting. Look, if you're and look, I'm not saying that I am a homophobic or anything like that. No, I have watched other anime where boy love, normal everything, but it's one thing to just simply like a boy liking another boy, but to for the vampire to groom him and waiting just 18 just doesn't sit right with me. And a friend of mine asked me, hey, if it was a woman vampire, would you feel the same way of disgust? Yes. If she's just waiting 18 just right so she can devour him and get her rock hard or whatever lady boner, then yes, still the same amount of disgustingness. And just to be clear, this anime is, let's say, for the, you know how they say the male gaze, this anime is mostly for the female gaze, with the amount of nakedness throughout the episode of the male form. And look, like now that I ramble on and ranted about the perversion and so on and so on, mostly the story is Tatsuno fell in love with the girl. The perverted vampire doesn't want to because he wants him to remain virgin and pure and everything, and he's pretty much cock blocking her. Sorry, not her, him. He's cock blocking Tatsuno, because the perverted vampire went to the house of the girl to say, hey, you are not to fall in love with him, and he was intending to suck her dry, but stuff got in the way and he couldn't. But the girl misunderstood and she fell in love with the vampire. And throughout the episodes, there's constantly misunderstanding. She's falling the girl instead of falling in love with the vampire instead of Satsuno. And even in the ending in episode 12, he went to block hard because Tatsuno was spending quality time with the girl, and the perverted vampire got in the way and separated them, and the vampire was spending time alone with the girl, making her fall even more in love with him, the vampire. And mostly there's other stuff. There's other than those three characters that I mentioned and the vampire hunter. Just there's other characters, side characters There's a story plot. There's even a decent fight scene at the in the ending in episode 11, or was it in the beginning of episode 12? Doesn't matter. But honestly, just hearing the premise alone is just not good. So I'm just going to stop here and give this one a score of 3. A 3 out of 10. Just by hearing the premise alone, I don't have to explain the reason why I gave it a 3. So I'm going to end it here. So have a good day, have a good night, wherever you're from. See you next video.